I'm Nick, and this is a brand new case from Arctic. This is called the Xtender. We saw this one pop up at Computex. We didn't cover it. We saw it on the last day when we were walking around, and it piqued my interest because of this mirrored glass finish. Let's take a little bit of a look at this case. I gotta be honest with you guys, this is the first time we've ever covered anything Arctic on the entire channel, and I've got some notes. Let's take a look. All right, here it is, the Arctic Xtender. This is the VG version with the vertical GPU bracket in the black mirrored finish. It's a pretty gorgeous looking case. For the dimensions of the Xtender, the case is 529mm long, 231mm wide, and also 529mm high, making it quite literally a giant glass box. To remove both the front and rear panels, there is a captive thumb screw and a little cutout where you put your fingers in, and then you pop the top edge of each of the panels out, and then you can do what we always do here, guys. You can lift that panel up and then away from the case. To remove the top panel, you put your thumbs in the little notch on the rear of the panel. You can pop that up and then lift that away from the case too. There's also this little TG panel on the PSU shroud, which is glass and RGB. And look, it's me. Hi guys, how you going? We'll light you up a little bit later. As for the case's wiring, there's a USB Type-C cable, there's a front panel audio cable, there's all of the connectors for the lights and the switches, as well as a USB Type-A cable. For front I/O, there's a combined power button, power light, and drive activity light. There's a combined headphone and microphone jack, a USB Type-C port, and 2 USB Type-A ports. The rear panel has an included dust filter. It is a magnetic dust filter, and it is very easy to remove. There's some tape that holds it into place for transportation when you first buy it, but it is easily removed. There's also another magnetic filter on the top panel, which can be easily removed as well. To install drives in the Xtender, there's two 3.5-inch drive sleds in the bottom near the PSU shroud. The whole cage is removable with a thumb screw, and you can also mount a 2.5-inch drive on the top of the cage too. And on the rear of the motherboard tray, there is 3 more 2.5-inch drive mounts. The Xtender supports motherboards from ITX all the way up to EATX. As you can see here, I didn't use an EATX motherboard. However, I do use some very high-end hardware so we can test the thermals properly. That's just what we do here, ladies and gents. Here's where the Xtender gets really interesting, and it's kind of where it gets its name from. On the top of the case, there is this bracket. In the default configuration, it will support up to 3 120mm fans or up to a 360mm radiator. If we remove that bracket, you can see that it will allow us to install up to 3 140mm fans, or, as you're about to see, up to a 420mm liquid cooler. Or radiator, just depends on what you want to use. The thing about this bracket is there's another one that's included with the case, because on the side of the case, you can change the mounting from those included 140mm fans to a 120mm fan mount, meaning in the configuration that the case ships with in this SKU, you could do up to another 420mm radiator on the side, or with this bracket installed, a 360mm radiator or 3 120mm fans. I hope this is all making sense to you guys. There's quite a lot of compatibility here. As seen already, this SKU does include some fans. On the side for this SKU, there's 3 P14 Pro reverse pitch fans, and on the rear of the case, there's 2 P12 Pro ARGB fans as well, meaning in this SKU, not in all the SKUs, there is 5 pre-installed fans. All of the fans are 3-pin 5V addressable RGB. They're also all daisy chainable, and they're also all PWM daisy chainable as well. As for power supply support, with the hard disk sleds installed, you can install up to a 200mm long power supply. That is including the cables, and it's on this handy dandy little bracket. There's 4 captive thumb screws. You mount your power supply to the bracket, and then you load the power supply in from the rear of the case. This version of the case has a vertical GPU bracket as well as a riser cable. Arctic decided to include a PCIe Gen 4 riser cable, not a PCIe Gen 5 riser cable. The main reason I think they decided to do that is when you use PCIe Gen 4 on a PCIe Gen 5 riser cable, the loss in performance is negligible. I think they decided to do it because it brings the cost of the case down a little bit, even though the cost for this case isn't exactly cheap as it is. The Arctic Xtender supports GPUs up to 482 millimeters long. However, if you're using a side radiator, you're reducing that length to just 337 millimeters. Now, here's where I discovered the first issue with this case. As you're seeing here, this is me installing the 5090 Supreme SoC from MSI in the vertical position with the bracket. However, because of the cooler, this GPU does not fit because the GPU is too wide. Now, I did make a little bit of a modification to this. I moved the GPU a slot over in the bracket, but I couldn't fasten the riser cable to the bracket. So it's kind of floating around. It is connected properly, but the main issue being, as you're about to see when we check out the thermals, is it pushes the GPU right up against the glass, meaning you will have really, really bad GPU thermals. The only reason why I kept it like this for the video and the B-roll is it looks really cool and you get an idea of what it would look like. However, when I did the thermal testing, I tested both in this position and in the regular horizontal position, so you can see why you shouldn't use this GPU in this case with this riser cable. For cable management, the Xtender is really, really good. The Velcro tie downs work very nicely to conceal all the cables. I spent maybe 3 minutes cable managing this and it looks pretty good. You can't disagree with that, guys. It does look really nice for cable management here. All right, let's pop all the panels back on and then we'll chat about the thermals because it's an interesting one, but also kind of my fault. All right, let's take a little bit of a look at the thermals. What you're seeing on your screen right now is a bunch of different tests that I ran here. First of all, I decided to put the GPU in the regular configuration without the vertical GPU bracket. As I've probably already mentioned in the video, you can't technically use this GPU with this vertical GPU bracket because it's too big. But I wanted to know what that would look like when the GPU was sitting right up against the glass, because this GPU is probably the size of a GPU that you might want to put in this case, and I'd have some more to talk about with that. But other than this vertical GPU bracket just having appalling GPU thermals that's sitting so far against the case, in its regular configuration, the GPU thermals are very, very good. In fact, the CPU thermals here are freaking excellent. So I gotta say, with the combination of this cooler in this case, it's a 420 cooler, it's massive. Thermals are very, very good, so good work Arctic for that. Now, if you're interested in any of the hardware used in this build, there's a PC part picker list down below, as well as a bunch of Amazon links. You purchase anything from those links, you're helping out the channel quite a lot, because yeah, that's how this works, guys. Can't do everything for nothing. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Arctic Xtender. I've got some notes, like I said in the intro. First of all, this is a fantastic case to build in. I'm not gonna lie, the build quality here is fantastic. I built in this thing exceedingly fast due to the fact that it had included fans, which is something that I always like to see. Arctic has a reputation of having very good components for cooling. Even before YouTube, I had an Arctic air cooler on basically every single PC that I had from about probably 2002 up. yeah, like they were my go-to cooler brand. However, it's strange that we've never really covered them on the channel because we've never got anything from them before until now, right? We're changing that. Maybe not after this video though. Because of the notes, right? So again, build quality is excellent. If you take a look here at the cable management, again, as I've already showed, it's excellent. The case is really, really well put together, but the thing that confuses me is this case is massive. You can see it, it's huge, but the GPU compatibility with the included vertical GPU bracket is ridiculous. Why on earth couldn't they just make this an 8-slot case, not a 7-slot case, and allow for like wider GPUs to fit in something this size? This case is massive. There's two 120mm fans at the back. You can tell how big this thing is. It's massive. Why can't I put any GPU in there? Now I know that Arctic probably has an answer already canned somewhere saying, hey, we didn't do it because of this reason, but I don't think that's a good enough reason because the case is massive. Simple as that. They could have dropped the PSU a little bit further down to add for the extra slot, so you could have the vertical GPU bracket down an extra slot, and then account for the fact that this 5090 doesn't fit underneath this cooler, except if you do what I did and dismantled the vertical GPU bracket and disconnected the riser cable from its mounting and then pushed the whole card out a slot so the card sits against the glass, which destroys the GPU thermals. I think that is just such a missed opportunity. You could have made this case amazing, but that one oversight, it's a problem. And the thing is, a little bit of that is on me too, because I was like, I want to use this combination of hardware because I had it sitting because we'd already pulled apart the system. And I'm like, this case is massive. Of course it's going to fit this big ass 5090 in it, but with the vertical GPU bracket, it doesn't technically fit. Yeah, just keep that in mind. Go and look at their website if you're looking at getting this case to make sure that your GPU is compatible with this case, because this 5090, it ain't it. It ain't it. It doesn't technically fit unless you put it in its regular orientation. Yeah, that's mainly the notes that I have for it. The case, other than that, is pretty fantastic. The build quality is really good. Like, I really, really like this case. I was so excited about building in this case up until I was like, oh shit, the GPU is not really going to fit in here that well. That bummed me out a bit. But yeah, it is a nice case. I got to give it that. So good work, Arctic. I keep seeing the camera monitor, Claire, and the reflection, and it's like I've got two arms. Like, I've got like 3 arms because of the reflection. It looks ridiculous. How funny. Oh, I've been doing a lot more, tell you what. Anyway, the price starts at $219 US, or about 350 odd Aussie dollars. This is the mirrored version with all the fans, so this is the most expensive SKU. I think this one is like 369 Aussie dollars at the time of filming, and whatever the US price is, whatever the US price is, I don't know. I live in Australia. I know that a lot of you guys are in the US, but I live in Australia, so that's the thing that is the most important thing to me, because those are the dollars that I spend, Australian dollars. Right. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this one up to you guys. Let us know what you think about the Arctic Xtender. I really like it. Like I said, I really love the mirrored finish. I really love the placement of everything. I like the fact that a 420mm cooler fits in here without any problems whatsoever, especially because this radiator is insanely thick, but the GPU compatibility for a case this size, you can see it, it's massive, it's a letdown for me. Yeah. 7.5 out of 10 on 7.5 out of 10 gears. I don't know, we've never given a rating before. I don't know, just make that up.